All right, so welcome everybody to month 6 and our last month of flower blocks. Next month will be the finishing kits. So we've got 3 to do this month, starting with block number 16, the Chiming Bells. So as usual, I've got my Cathedral window appliques cut. Just set that off to the side. I've got all of my little applique shapes labeled. And I've got my thread scissors. I've got my 10.5-inch square ready to go. And I always like to have a photocopy to work from. And so I've got my photocopy. So just going to put my book off to the side as I usually do. I moved my table over. Okay, I'm going to have to put it on this side. Move my table over. And so my book's got to go to the other side. Try to make it so you guys can see. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in here and get going on block number 16. So I've got my layout here ready. I'm going to turn on my light table and turn it down a little bit so it's not so bright for you guys. And lay my 10.5-inch square on there, lining up with these little edges, putting it on point. And then I'm going to look at my book for my instructions. So first thing we're going to do is flowers 1 through 8. And you'll notice that a lot of the flowers will have a 1A, a 1B, a 1C. In that case, you always do them in alphabetical order before you move on to the next number. So we're going to do all the ones first. So 1A is actually part of this really pale yellow. It's this little stamen. And group 1 and 2 are right here. So whoop. So these little ones here, I've had a few ladies that have told me that they like to use tweezers when they're doing this. If you want to use tweezers, this would probably be a good time. So we have a 1A and a 1B. And then 1C is actually out of this green color here. And that's just the little stem that connects it to the main stem. Or I think this is called something like a sepal. Yep, sepal. When I was designing this, I had to look up all the parts of the flowers because I don't like calling them like the wrong name. I'm particular about making sure I'm saying the right thing. So 2A I just put down. We got 2B. And 2C, pull, boop. And then we're going to move on to the next little group of flowers over here. So we want to find 3A is this little tiny one. Hope everybody's been enjoying the classes and that they help to alleviate any anxiety over the number of pieces in this design, this quilt. When you take it one block at a time, it's not so bad. Okay, so 3C. So now we're moving on to 4. So 4A is actually this lavender color here. And 4B is in the sepals. So I actually have kind of a funny story about this particular block that I'll tell you. So I'll just keep going on here. We're going to get through 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5, 6, and 7 are as usual here, like we're doing 5, 6, 7, all the same parts, and then 8 is actually just this one little lavender guy, like 4 was. So my story. So when I was designing the Northern Flora quilts, I started designing it in the summer of 2012, and my daughter was a year old. She would have turned 2 at the end of the summer. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna do the Great Alaska Shop Hop for 2013. So I got to work on a design. So I decided I would do the florals. And so while I was doing, or with that plan in mind, I guess I, was like, well, it's summer and I need to get out there and I need to get, figure out which flowers I'm going to do, how many flowers I'm going to do. And I usually like to go out and take pictures of the subject matter that I'm going to be designing. So I was going all around Kenai and Soldotna and our area looking for different wildflowers and taking like tons of pictures of them. So, and as I was doing it, I realized that Alaska has a lot of lavender and purple flowers, and some pink, but not a whole lot, and some yellow, but not a whole lot of like some of the other, as I was doing it, it was sort of like, oh geez, I have so many, what am I doing here? Talking too much. 7. I have so many purple flowers. Well, so I'd be looking for other ones and, just kind of like trying to figure out what I'm doing. Well, I decided, oh, I'm going to do these little chiming bells because they're so cute. And I had been, out to Captain Cook State Park like the summer before, I think, or maybe not even that long. It might have even been earlier that summer, but I had seen the chiming bells growing on the side of the road out at Captain Cook State Park. So where I live in Kenai, to get out to Captain Cook, it's about a 25-minute drive. And so my daughter, like I said, was only a year old, and I thought, well, I'll drive out there with her and she'll probably fall asleep and we'll have a nice little drive out and I'll go find these flowers because I just couldn't find them anywhere else when I was driving around. And I was like, well, the only place I remember seeing them is Captain Cook, so I'll go out there. So I drive out to Captain Cook. I see the little flowers. I take a bunch of pictures and I decide I'm going to head back to Kenai. So on the way back, it was like lunchtime and I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and have some lunch. Really quick here, I'm going to jump in that I did flowers 1 through 8. Now I'm going to do stem 1. So stem 1 is actually this really big long one here. So let me pop this out and get stem 1. And then after this, we're doing all the cathedral windows and I'll keep telling my story. So like I said, we went all the way up to Captain Cook. I took all these pictures, driving back to Kenai, and I'm thinking like, okay, I think I need some lunch. I'm going to just run into Arby's and get myself a Market Fresh sandwich. So I drive into Arby's and I'm going to put it right here in the center. Like, I'm sorry, I interrupt myself all the time, but I want to make sure you guys know what I'm doing here too. So usually if I find a center point, it helps to get these other ones when it's a long one, in case any of this got stretched a little when you're pulling that paper off. I always start in the center, and that kind of helps to keep it to where if it's stretched a little, this and the main areas that are important in the middle stay where they're supposed to. So anyhow, so I'm in the Arby's drive through, and after like an hour of driving to and from Captain Cook and taking my pictures and stuff, and as I'm sitting there parked in the drive through getting ready to get up to the window to pay, I look over to my right, and right there in the Arby's, like right next to the building, there's like mostly gravel and stuff, and then like one plant that's growing with all these little flowers on it, and it was a chiming bell plant. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I literally just drove all the way to Captain Cook and back for like an hour, and I come back to Kenai and there's a huge bush of chiming bells right in the Arby's drive-thru. And the only difference was the one out Captain Cook, it had these kind of blue lavender and pink flowers on it, and the one at the Arby's drive-thru was mostly pink flowers. So I was like, well, whatever. I like the one at Captain Cook better anyhow because I'm a blue person. But I just thought it was so funny. Every time I see this one, I always think about how I spent my whole afternoon driving to and from Captain Cook to get a picture of these flowers, and then it turns out there's some at Arby's, like, 5 minutes from my house. So that's my silly story about Chiming Bells. Okay, so now I'm on to step C, which is leaves A through E. So we're not doing anything with flowers at the moment. We're just going to want to grab leaf stuff. So that's this kind of medium green and this brighter green. No greens from the sepals there. And if it has a A1, that means there's an A2, and there might even be on some of these, I think there's even 3-4 pieces. So on leaf B. So we're going to start with A1. And leaf A is right here. It goes off over onto the border. So I'm just going to kind of flip that up so I can see where it goes. And A2 is over here. It's this bright green. So that day, thankfully, it was like nice and sunny. So it was actually a really beautiful day. And my daughter got a very nice nap. So it worked out okay. But I just always thought it was so funny that I drove all the way out there and came home, and it wasn't even like the next day or a week later I see that they have a bush of those. It was like literally as I came back into town. Okay, and so these ones here, they're going to overlap each other to kind of give this little twisty look. So you'll see follow B1, line up your leaf with the bottom edge, and then on B2, we're going to line up the leaf with, just trying to get that off there. We're going to line up with the top edge. And so it starts to create this kind of little curve. And then B3 is underneath this cathedral window. It's kind of hard for me to see, especially when I turn my light down, but I'll flip it up and kind of take a look. And so I'm just going to kind of butt it right up to there. And if it overlaps a little, it's fine, but you kind of want it to meet at the bottom corner, just so it kind of gives that twisty look. And B4 is going back to that kind of medium green. I guess it's called dark green leaves. And then I'm just going to, again, kind of overlap across the top where that little point kind of meets at the top. And that way it kind of creates this twisted kind of look for the leaf there. Okay. And then C, just straightening myself up here, C1. A little fold over and peel. C2, which I'm just lining up kind of the bottom and making sure that these points on either side just sort of line up with the edge of that green so that it just makes a nice little curve. And then C3 is going right off the end here. And I can't really see it, so I'm just sort of going to place it and let it just sort of, I'm not worried if it's on exactly the right spot there on that, but because that looks gorgeous right where it's at. Okay, what are we on to? D, D1. D2. And, oh, and I don't know if I bumped my thing or if my stem was just off, but I'm just going to kind of lift it a little bit to move it closer. And then I'm going to make sure that my light green touches, just so that it touches that stem. So it looks like it's coming off. I'm not going to worry about bothering moving that. And E1, and that's it for this color. I think I moved my thing a little bit. I don't really worry about it if it gets bumped a little. I just kind of straighten it back up and just go from there. So my flower might be 2 millimeters off from your flower, but that just makes mine unique. Okay, and E2. So we are done with that step. So now on to step D, which is flowers 9 through 12 and stem 2, and that's this little group right here. So we want to start with 9A. 9B, and 9C. Oh, it's not in here. So we don't have a 9C. So, oh, I know why. I was just thinking, I know there's a reason. I'm pretty sure 10 covers 9 and 10. It does, actually. So we've got 10A, which is this little part at the top. 10B is the bigger part that is at the bottom of this section of 10. And then 10C is actually also covers the top of 9. So if you're like, where's 9? Don't worry. It's part of 10. Okay, so I'll put 10, and then you can see 9 just sort of falls right over the top of 9 there. So now 11A is this little light piece, pale yellow color, and it's kind of like over here. It's like right there, I'm gonna guess. Okay, 11B. And 11C. Oh, no, 11C. So we're, again, 12C is going to cover 11 and 12. So now I'm going to get 12A. Which is just sort of right here. And if you put something down, like if you can't see, and oh, I have my little thread scissors because once in a while I get those little threads sticking out. You can always adjust it. You know, it's not fused right now. So I'm just sort of sticking 12 down, and then I'm going to put this one down, and it's sticking out just fine. I'm not going to worry about that. If it was like where the yellow was maybe hanging out and it wasn't actually tucked under, I might want to move it and push it back a little so it was under, but it's tucked under the blue. I'm totally happy with where it's at. And 12C, which actually covers 12 and 11. And so I'm just going to put it like, as I put it on 12, it just goes right exactly where it should be for 11. Okay, so, and then stem 2 is this last piece in this light green. And then this one's done. We're so close to done with all of them, actually, because we just have a little group of flowers left. And this covers up the tops of those stems and attaches it to the main stem. So now the final step, E, we're gonna do flowers 13 and through 16, and then stem 3. So starting with 13, 14, 15 are just these little like buds, and these flowers are sort of pinkish when they're first budding out, and then they end up kind of going into a blue, periwinkle kind of blue color as they mature. So I have a piece of paper stuck that is staticky to me. There we go. So 15, that's the last of the pink. And then, and then wants me to move on to 16. So we'll do 16. 16A, which is the last of that pale yellow. Oop. 16B, the last of the blue. And then 16C is this little green sepal that's just on 16. And then stem 3 is the last piece here of this sepal color. And it will just cover the ends of those buds and connect it to the main stem. Okay, turning off my light. So this one is finished. So here we go. So now the next step, of course, is going to be to gently press everything down to get the glue warmed up and get everything to stick and hold in place. And then you're going to go over it and do your fusing. So the fusing, again, if my hand is your iron, you're going to, if you're using steam from your iron, you're going to hold it about a ½ inch to an inch above. Steam it for about 5 seconds and then just set it down on dry heat and let the dry heat evaporate all that moisture and fuse everything well. Lift it, go to the next footprint, steam it, dry heat, steam it 5 seconds, dry heat for about another 8, do the whole thing, flip it over, do the whole thing from the back, and then you're good to go. Make sure your heat is on medium as usual. You don't want to overheat that glue and fry it. If you see little dots through any of your appliques, or if you see them on the back, that means your iron's a little too hot. Turn it down a bit, give it a few minutes, and then go over it. So you just want to make sure you don't overheat the glue. Okay, so that's it for Chiming Bells. Next block is Wild Rose. See you again in a few.